we've talked so much about kind of the hype behind short-term rentals and kind of the perfect time to get into it being the perfect storm, no better time, all of these great positive buzzwords. Let's take a look at kind of a cynical approach. Is there a tipping point, in your opinion, where too many houses have been converted into short-term rentals? If so, when and why would that be? Is there that oversaturation point where kind of you can't unring that bell?
It's a really good question. And the way you're asking it is very important because if you actually look at Airbnb in terms of their forward guidance and what some of the risks are with the business, they flat out say themselves that market regulations and different regulations coming into the industry are the biggest risk in the short-term rental space. Now, let me break that down, what I mean specifically. We have seen over the last, I would say, 18 months, the biggest surge in real estate that we've seen in the last decade. Housing prices are going absolutely insane all across North America. And it's really a global phenomenon because interest rates are at rock, really like as cheap as they've ever been, right? And because people have discovered that, hey, I can work remotely and I don't need to live in this little shoebox in a downtown, place where I live. I can actually go out to the suburbs and have, a single family home. So so we've seen a huge surge in people buying property, but we've also seen a huge surge in how much rent is increasing in a lot of different markets. Mm-hmm. So now what we have to be mindful of is that because certain markets have very low levels of vacancy, very low availability of housing, local leaders and politicians and people in government, they're being very mindful that, well, if we have too many properties that are in short-term rentals, well, then there's just simply not going to be enough housing available for local residents or people coming into the area. So this is something we're starting to see in, I would say, larger metropolitan centers.
Specifically in Canada, we're seeing this in Toronto, we're seeing this into Vancouver, and they're cracking down. The thing is you don't want to ever be in the gray zone, and you don't ever want to get caught in that. You always want to be, above board with everything that you're doing. And we're seeing in those big areas that they're trying to crack down on it because it is taking that long-term demand away, right? Or long-term availability away from people that are looking to actually live in those cities, right? So they're trying to protect their long-term inventory. But what does this actually mean on the short-term rental side? Well, that's a couple things, because if that's a barrier to entry for people trying to get into the space too, right? So if you're able to still get into that space, find out how you can actually still operate, above board in those markets, you're going to be already above the rest because everyone's getting out, right? They're getting shut down or anything like that. But if you're able to set up appropriately in the right structure in those cities, you have a big opportunity. So that's number one. The other thing about oversaturation, let's say there's it's a big market and short-term rentals are allowed and, a ton of people are coming in, and you're wondering if there's a tipping point there. There's a couple things we need to look at. And this is very important. We talk about this in training as well, is what makes you different than your competition? Because as we had mentioned earlier, a ton of people can come in, but what value are they bringing? Are they just throwing up a listing of grandma's furniture, right? What unique experience are they doing? Those are really, really important things that you need to evaluate when you're getting in there. So in our market, we're quite short-term rental friendly in the market that we are in Edmonton, Canada. And the thing is when you look at it, we have a ton of short-term rentals. We saw in the pandemic, it went down, but we have about 1,800 short-term rentals here, right? And we have 30 of them in our own market. And people are like, are you cannibalizing your own, business by doing this? I'm like, well, the thing is you have to strive to be the best. And I know that's maybe sound, I don't know if that sounds boisterous or anything, but you do need to strive to be the best, because that's why people want to actually stay and why you can charge that premium.
What are you going to say? You got to strive to be mediocre. I mean, I've never heard that, right? strive to be, below par. No, of course, strive to be the best. But there are going to be haters on that, as always. But those are underachievers typically, so we don't really worry about them anyways. Keep going, guys. Any other thoughts on that question, Michael? It looks like you're chomping at the bit to respond here.
Yeah. So it's there's always a balance with these, right? So what you're saying is definitely something that people need to be aware of. And, I think probably over the next number of years, we are going to see more regulations coming into the space. So on one side, that creates challenges, but on the other side, it creates opportunities. So because I think we have this window over the next couple of years, the opportunity that exists, and again, as we've mentioned on many previous videos, you don't have to own real estate in order to do short-term rentals. However, a lot of the regulations that we're seeing come into place, they don't really apply if you actually own the property, right? So something we're actually starting to do ourselves is that the cash flow and income that we're making from properties we don't own, we're actually starting to acquire units that we do own in very select markets that have high upside potential and are also very short-term rental friendly, and they will remain so for the long term. I'll give you an example. So a market that we're currently moving into right now is a market called Canmore, Alberta. It's a beautiful little mountain town. It's about 3.5 hours door to door from where we live. And we've actually started buying properties in that market. Now, the reason why we've done that is, number one, it's kind of a selfish lifestyle reason. We've always wanted to do it for the last number of years, and now we finally can. But the second thing is, in that market, there's specific zoning for short-term rentals. So because
it's not a license, it's, it's an actual zoning of it, right? And that is very, very important because, to actually have a zoning and a bylaw in there is huge to have that in your court, right? So
yeah, and this town in particular, it is very tourist centric. So, and the zoning of where it exists, there's also a lot of other hotels and stuff in the area. So it's really not in the town's best interest to reduce that supply of short-term rentals because they know that a lot of people are going to be using it and there is a ton of demand coming into it. Now, of course, like we've seen, prices in that class of real estate have obviously gone way up over the last 18 months, but you have to be very selective and, coming back to your favorite word, Michael, intentional about what you're doing and
which ones you're picking up and really doing that analysis and that research before you actually purchase.
Correct.
Got it. No, that all makes perfect sense. So along kind of those same lines, if you guys are not necessarily going out now, you guys are targeting properties for your own portfolio, but folks that are coming to you, you don't know where they're coming from. The people that are watching this channel, they're finding you in some other way, shape, or form. You find out literally during that phone call where they're located. If someone's watching from home and they're on the fence, what cities could you throw out there right now where they might be watching and they're like, I'm kind of on the fence. Oh my gosh, they just said that my city's perfect for this. Are there a half dozen or a dozen cities that off the top of your head, you think would be a phenomenal fit for this business model? Maybe because regulations are low, maybe because they've got the ability to charge a high nightly, obviously, depending, results may vary, but anything kind of pop into your to the top of your head as far as some markets that you would think would be, really good ones to take a look at?
Yeah. So, it's a very loaded question when you look at that because it's
by design. Yeah.
It depends on what kind of deal structure you're looking at. Like I know there's Dallas, Texas. Like Texas is business friendly. We love Texas. Alberta,
So Texas in general, friendly state.
Yeah, like
generally speaking,
when you're looking at from a business side of it, right? They are very business friendly. And those kind of business states tend to do well, but also places like tourism type areas, right? And kind of location and vacation type areas. So Arizona, looking in areas like that, right?
Another state I would say, Alabama is going to be one to watch because we actually have a few clients in Alabama. And the thing we like about that market in particular, the rents compared to most places in the United States are extremely cheap. And the arbitrage potential is very, very, very high. Now, that's what it currently looks like now. Is it always going to remain that way? Hard to say.
Changes, adjust, it just depends. There's certain markets like Vegas that is very hard to get into because it's look at the hotel industry, right? And trying to get into that. But the thing is I never want to deter people from thinking about that because always do the research. For instance, we have a client out in, is it the Hamptons?
Yeah, so they're
out there.
Yeah, they're just outside of New York, and where they actually wanted to do their business was in the Hamptons. Now,
you would be like, no way, the Hamptons. Seriously, if you look at rents there, it's crazy, right? Like, how are you going to break into that?
So. And we can just give a quick example on that. So like rent in the Hamptons in some of these houses, like I'm not kidding, sometimes go for $50,000 to $200,000+ a month. So if you're trying to do arbitrage, pretty tough. It's
gonna be a challenge. It's gonna be a challenge. Yeah.
Pretty challenging. So what they ended up doing was they used the partnership business model, and they actually got control of this beautiful little 2-bed cabin out there, worked a deal with the lady that had owned it, and had just a pretty open discussion with her, like, well, what do you actually need for this to work? She just, based on her situation, she only needed a few $1,000s a month to kind of cover her bills and, have everything
have
be
a great lifestyle,
be okay on the home front. And what they ended up, their first client, they ended up, and by the way, in this market, you have to do 2-week minimums. You can't even do nightlies there, but they, this is what they want to do. So they did it anyway. First booking they got, 3 months for $40,000.
Wow.
Yep. Not too shabby.
No, that's a home run right out of the gate. They probably really appreciated your coaching.
Well, the cool thing is like, that's why when you're saying, which market should you go into, is like never, it's like, how can we make it work? Right. It's like, how can we get into that?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And people ask me the same thing about real estate investing. Where should I be investing right now? And, it's funny you said Alabama. One of my favorite investment markets right now is Birmingham, Alabama, for some of those same reasons. So love it there. And people are just Birmingham, Alabama, and I almost hate giving away that secret there because it's just such a hidden little gem. So I didn't want you guys to divulge all of your best kept secrets there. But, if you knew a couple off the top of the head or states really that were a little bit more friendly to short-term rentals. You named Texas, you said Florida, Arizona, more of those kind of vacation destinations with high traffic, things like Walt Disney World. And obviously there's a million theme parks in Texas, and Arizona's got its own whys and wherefores with golf and et cetera, et cetera. So those would be obvious ones that would make sense. Not to put you on the spot, Katrina, but I appreciate your response anyways. So, all right, fantastic, guys. So there you have it. If you want more information, you're ready to go. You at least want that consultation call. Don't wait any longer. Armchair quarterbacks, people that stand on the sidelines and watch other people do and make money, are going to be kicking themselves years from now when they did not take action. Does not hurt to at least send in an inquiry. Go ahead and send that to BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com. That's BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com. Include conversation in the subject line, first, last name, and best phone number to reach you in the body. Someone will get back in touch with you right away. If you want us to continue to bring Michael and Katrina and folks like this back here on the channel, we love bringing like-minded people that just add tremendous value to the experience on here, we hope. If you feel the same way, go ahead and smash that thumbs up below. That helps out our algorithms, lets us know we're doing right by y'all. If you are a subscriber, thanks for joining us. If not, ding that subscribe and go ahead and hit that bell notification below if you want more updates as we bring additional content like this on the VIP Financial Education YouTube channel, where we talk about all things credit, capital, and cash flow. Until next time, thanks for joining us and make it a great day.